Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HMP. Charlie Sheen, Ben Vereen, time to shrink to the size of a lima bean. We are back to talk about the first season of Gen V, a spinoff from The Boys. Who asked for this? We'll find out. I'm Adam Porterson. Joining me today, they call him the Golden Boy, but that's because he exclusively eats at Golden Corral. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
What are those ribs? Pile 'em on. I'm a big boy.
Woo-wee! Yeah, you can't spell Sweet Shawnsy without chocolate fountain, I always say. Man be sticking his head in it, doing God knows what. Just don't drink out the chocolate fountain, people. That's all I'm saying. It's just not very good.
Have you ever gone through a Golden Corral phase?
No, like I feel like maybe now I had gone to maybe several types of things that are Golden Corral-esque per se, but not I think I may have specifically only been to a Golden Corral perhaps once. I'd say maybe in the age of 19, somewhere around there, I guess. But maybe usually, just once.
Like whenever anyone says to you that they used to eat at Golden Corral a lot, my guess is that they're talking about when they were like just out of their parents' house and poor, because that's generally what I have found. Because I went through that phase where I was like, oh man, I got $10 to eat, so I'll just go to Golden Corral and eat enough for 3 days.
Yeah.
Like that's the way I did it.
In college, we had like chicken wing night over at one of the bars or whatever, when chicken wings were like, a quarter or something like that. So you just like that would be our kind of like, hey, let's just destroy the world here. Speaking of destroying the world, we're back talking about Gen V. That is the spinoff from The Boys. It is now available on Amazon Prime, or just Prime. Just Prime. Don't put the Amazon on there. They took it off. It's dirty. I think
they don't want you to think of 2-day shipping.
No, they want you to think of quality, fine programming. Is Gen V Gen Z? I'm sure they did. That's on purpose, I'm sure.
Of course.
Is Gen V that? We don't know. We'll figure that all out. But before we do, we want to say a giant thank you to the people who support us over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. And this week, we talk about Fargo. Which kind of Fargo? You don't know. You have to go over to patreon.com/HMP to figure it out. Otherwise, you're just going to be scratching your head till it's raw and bloody, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that at all.
Fargo?
Could be the other one. You don't know what it is. Patreon.com/HMP. I mean, you get to help support this program, make sure that we're coming back every single Monday, and you get more stuff in the exact same time. I just don't know how you can really lose on that one, to be quite honest.
The answer, you can't.
You can't. Try as you will. You can't lose, everybody. So patreon.com/HMP. And if you can't do that, for the love of Pete, just drop over there to the iTunes and give us a 5-star review, aka Humdinger.
Humdinger.
Do it over there. Do it over at Spotify. Tell your mother. Again, once the holiday seasons are coming about here, everybody. We're in Hanukkah right now. I want you to go over to one of your relatives, steal their iPhone out of their hand, go to the HMP, tell us that, rate us 5 stars, tell us that you stole grandma's phone, put that up there, and we'll read it out here on the show when you do so. That is your holiday homework assignment from the crew over at HMP. Please do that and make it funny. We like to read funny stuff on this program, or at least I'll try to read. We'll put it to you that way. Bruce is out this week. He's got a premiere. He's at a premiere tonight. I didn't want to have to say it out like that, but
yes,
sometimes you got to give the man credit where credit's due. He's out at a premiere just being fancy and stuff, and he couldn't be here with the likes of us. But we wish Bruce the best, and hopefully he'll be back next week. Bruce,
I thought it was a bold choice to wear a tuxedo top, jacket, and jorts.
Listen, the man's got his style, and he'll be darned if anybody else is going to stop him from expressing himself the way that he feels.
It's true.
He wants to let the world know on the outside what it feels like on the inside.
He just keeps saying to people, they're dress jorts.
They're from the Kevin Smith collection.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
Man. The fact that wife of his can't get him to put on a pair of pants like a man.
It's like you've lost over 100 pounds now, buddy. It's time we start putting you in some honest to God full length pants.
No, the Gap's got my pants. They're called jorts.
Love them. All right, let's get into it. Here's the IMDb plotline for Gen V. As we all know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. From the world of The Boys comes Gen V, which explores the first generation of superheroes to know that their superpowers are from Compound V. These heroes put their psychological and moral boundaries to the test, competing for the school's top ranking. This is created by Evan Goldberg, who you know from The Boys, Preacher, and all the stuff he's done with Seth Rogen, of course, your Superbad, Sausage Party. List goes on and on and on. Eric Kripke, who did Supernatural, and he wrote The House with the Clock on the Walls. Very underrated film. I think people should check out. And Craig Rosenberg, who also did The Boys, Preacher, and After the Sunset. You remember that movie with Pierce Brosnan back in the day? Nobody does.
I do, actually, and it's pretty good.
It's not too bad. It's not too bad. That's a Brett Ratner movie. Nobody remembers that. It's a Brett Ratner movie. Yeah.
Now I hate it.
So let's talk briefly before we get into this thing and break it down and stuff. Obviously, you and I both we did The Boys 30 Questions. Mm-hmm. So we had that show going on and everything. I believe that we were both pretty big fans of The Boys. They do some wild and crazy stuff there.
It's one of the rare instances. The Boys is one of those rare instances where the mass media version is better than the source material. That doesn't happen very often. Like, I think of like Fight Club is one of those things where the movie is better than the book, and The Boys is better. The TV show is better than the comic book series. And I don't know, I'm sure that there's 11 people who are like, no, it's not. Yeah. It's amazing. But the fact of the matter is that as ultra violent and as dirty as the TV show can get, it has taken some of the edges off of the book, which needed to happen.
But at the same time, too, though, wouldn't you say this still feels very Garth Ennis in most ways?
Oh, without a doubt, yes. And maybe it's just because I am now a middle-aged man, but it's the part that I don't like about both The Boys and this. It's the look how shocking we're being. Like that makes me insane now. It's like, yes, we understand you're on the bleeding edge. We get it. Please continue. You're telling a pretty damn good story here. Let's keep telling that good story instead of what you're doing right now.
I mean, I think to a degree, though, that like some of that is also like I liken it to this. I had a teacher back in the day when I went to tech school and everything. I forget what the class was, so it shows you how at least he wasn't memorable in many ways, but he was like as far as what the class was. But it was this guy who was teaching the class. He was kind of he was disabled in a way. He had like kind of like not like a regular wheelchair, but like one of the scooter kind of things. Had a hard time getting around and had an interesting speech pattern and stuff. Wasn't quite what you would expect from a teacher per se. But a nice enough guy, interesting things, but also very colorful language. He would curse up a storm, but like he did so kind of to like pull your attention in a lot of weird ways because there were so many. He
read Lenny Bruce's book.
Yeah, kind of. It's just like, listen, nobody's paying attention. I pepper in a couple of curse words here and everything, and people that are in their early 20s kind of go like, oh shoot, this guy might have something going on here.
Yeah,
and that's sometimes this show feels a little bit like that. We'll get into all of that, but let me sell everybody then on this spinoff of The Boys because this sucker's got everything. Strap in for this one. The TV rating is 18 plus with the warning of nudity, violence, substance abuse, foul language, sexual content, and scenes depicting suicide and self-harm. That'll let you know this ain't no Disney Plus show, baby. We got a ton of great music this season. We got Megan Thee Stallion, The Donna's doing Dancing with Myself, Phoebe Bridgers does a 9 Inch Nails cover, Missy Elliott, Taylor Dane, Spandau Ballet, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, The Muff. Oh my goodness. We also got Fight Night with Little Cricket versus a gerbil named David Caruso. God, it's so good. False PewDiePie Nazi joke claims. We got limb ripping, car tossing, golden boy looks like a young Tom Brady and a young Andrew McCarthy merged together. We got Colin Ralph on the porcelain phone, burning bodies, exploding bodies, the internet, a punch to the gut and out of the mouth, a shrinky dink break in, water rolled 127 hours in one ear and out the other, the whole truth with Tech Knight on Vought Plus. Tech Knight is kind of like the Kmart Don Draper if he was a newsman. Young blood. Our young blonde handsome Michael Shannon, an exploding dong television's Jason Ritter, a gross Sesame Street knockoff Puppet Avenue V, giant girl waking up in squalor, missing time, the most graphically violent puppet murders ever laid to corporate digital media, a Tyrone Biggums reference, giving back memories, mind reading, mind visiting with special imaginary friend Soldier Boy, narrating your life while it's going on. I do that. I get it. Noonan is back. Boy, I hate that girl. Soups run amok, heads exploding, face face ripping, the Wilhelm scream, using the force for a cattle prod, arm exploding, a visit from Homelander, and a blast that leads to a room with no doors, and a show that on paper should not work at all, yet is one of the more interesting series we've watched this year. And dare I say, Marvel wishes they could do this with the X-Men. This show has everything.
I'm glad that you ended it with that. And by the way, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm glad you ended it with that, because that is my hot take, is that if New Mutants was this instead of New Mutants,
it would kill.
It would have killed instead of what that ended up being. And I think you have a very good point of the fact of the thing that makes me crazy is that it gets kids' eyes on it. And you're right. That is exactly what they do. And I think that it's why I think they go so hard with this stuff, is that they're trying to show you that, look, we can offer you a form of entertainment that you are not going to get from DC or from Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are our own brand, and this is what that brand looks like. And I think that there is a certain subset. It's the subset who read Spawn way after the fact of Spawn being popular. that's the same kind of kid.
If you read Spawn past issue 40, this is your
yes it's but I mean, after if you read Spawn after issue 40, you're now damn near 50 years old now.
Yeah.
And so like that kid is a man, and now his kid is probably a lot like he was as a kid. And so his kid is totally into Gen V.
I was shocked because like you said, we saw The Boys, we enjoyed the show, but when there was an idea of like, hey, we're going to do a spinoff, first of all, that was like noggin scratching, because you're like, okay, you're very successful with this. I mean, I know the idea is like, hey, if we're doing something that's successful, we can branch off and do something that's going to be just as successful. But how often does that work? Very rare.
Well, it is very rare, but the thing is that the secret weapon to the success of this is not it is not Evan Goldberg and it's not Seth Rogen. It is Eric Kripke, and I've said this before about The Boys. Kripke is the guy who makes the thing you want better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I've been a Ben Edlund fan since I've read comic books, because The Tick was one of my favorite comic books of all time. Ben Edlund, who is really the showrunner on Supernatural, has a lot of amazing ideas. But the problem is when there isn't someone there who's like the story guy or the dialogue guy,
mm-hmm.
then things are going to fall into the ocean, which is, you see that with Ben Edlund on Gotham. That's when you get your Fish Mooney and your crazy, like terrible stuff. Yeah, the Penguin is there too. And the Penguin, it's the best version of the Penguin we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really, really awful things that were on that show. Although one of the best Jokers ever.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. But like, yeah,
Jerome is way cooler than any other version we've gotten in a long time.
Show that gives and takes away for sure.
But so, you know, when you have Kripke on this show, I knew that there was going to be a certain level of competence with the story writing and the dialogue. What I thought I was going to have to hate watch this, because after the first episode of the show, I had to put it down. Like I couldn't keep going because I was having a very bad time watching it, because it seemed like there were so many moments of, look how extreme we're being. Isn't this insane?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was like, man, if they keep this level of outrageousness up, I'm not going to be there for it.
It was like it was you probably had the same kind of experience that I had with the first episode of Invincible, where I was just like, oh, I don't know if this is, you know,
right,
exactly what I necessarily want it to be, or no, the better example of that is Harley Quinn. That first episode of Harley Quinn, where they went so hard into the like, bro, we're animated, but we're a bunch of BAs over here, boy. We're gonna
look how much we're cursing.
So much cursing, and then you're just like, oh yeah, you're super cool. And I was like, boy, I hope this show isn't like that. It didn't end up being like that, thankfully, but I think that's probably what you had with this show.
It is. And so after I put the show down after episode 1, I was like, oh man, I still got to watch this thing. And there's so many episodes left, because there's 8 episodes of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I go into episode 2 and I start it by like, you know what, I can take some notes here and there, and that'll get me through at least another episode. Because as you know, when you have a show like ours, if you are not enjoying the thing that you're watching, taking notes really helps.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps you on track and stuff, and you kind of go like, okay, all right, I'm all right.
But by the end of episode 2, I'm kind of on board. I like the murder mystery of it. I like, I like the things that are happening. Also, I realize that Golden Boy is Schwarzenegger's kid.
Is that I'm looking at this guy going like, how do I know this guy? Because he has a familiar face, and now I know why.
I didn't figure it out until episode 2, because he turns at one point in a flashback or a dream sequence, and I was like, that is Arnold Schwarzenegger's kid. And I looked it up, and it is. It's Patrick Schwarzenegger plays Golden Boy on the show. Now, so not only is he the Zion of both the Schwarzenegger family and the Kennedys, but he also is a working actor. So
what a rough life this. I'm looking at him right now. I hate his guts. God, he's so good looking.
He's doing okay. He's good looking enough to the point where they call him, he can play a character named Golden Boy, and he's the best looking kid at this school filled with good looking kids. And it's right.
Can I say this though? Now, I did not know this information until just now, but like I had even thought this in the show, because one of Golden Boy's things is obviously he's very Human Torch-esque in a lot of ways. He's flames on and all that kind of good stuff, and his clothes go off, and because they're flammable, that's how clothes work. He's not in the best of shape. Like I look at it because, like, just in the superhero world that we live in right now, I don't know many people that would go on looking quite like that, much less with your name being Schwarzenegger. I think interesting.
I think that's the reason why he's not like completely veiny jacked, is for that very reason. I think that in order to put some distance between him and his father, he probably needs to work out. But he needs to work out so he has basically a swimmer's body instead of,
giant superhero body.
Right.
Which Dad was looking like superheroes before we had superheroes, rocking on the main screen, 5 times a year.
Right. And I think that's correct. Because it's going to be impossible to try to outdo his dad. You're not going to do it. He paved the way for all of that. Like don't do that. And he's not doing it. And to the point of fact of that, you like this kid, like you probably saw this and you like the actor. You're like, oh, he's pretty good in this. I'm gonna put him in my brain and remember him when I see him in something later. And you didn't even realize he was a Schwarzenegger.
No, it was definitely one of those again, spoiler alert for all of season Gen V here. When he dies, I was just like, oh, I was shocked because we obviously kind of set him up. I mean, his name's Golden Boy, for crying out loud. So we set him up that this is, and again, what a great thing of not knowing anything, isn't it? Where you just go like, oh, this guy's going to be our main guy. He's going to be the one that we're following here. I mean, you figure you're probably going to do that with the Marie character, Jazz Sinclair's character, the young black girl. She's great, by the way. We'll get to her in a moment. But like with him, you think, oh, this is where this is going to go, and then great stuff takes you a big left turn there and kills this guy right off the bat. Thank God we bring him back for some other things, as the program progresses and stuff. But again, it's subverting expectations and stuff and making you go automatically, oh, this is a show where major characters can die. You've put stakes in your game right away. And so many shows could learn from this, where we take forever before we get to anything of actual substance or, feel like there's any danger. We're in danger from go with this show, and it's great.
You know what I think about when I watch this show is I think of Runaways, because the first season of Runaways is great, right? Like I really like that first season. It's the second season was where everything becomes problematic, because in the book of the Runaways, the whole thing about it is that they keep getting murdered. Like over and over again, the kids screw up and they get murdered over and over again. And it's what made the book so damn interesting. But because the TV series is a TV series, and because it's on Disney, it's a Disney property now, they can't kill anybody. And so it's not nearly as interesting as it once was. And so the second season, it's just dead in the water.
Yeah.
Whereas with this show, it's basically like, hey, look, any of us could go at any time. And that's kind of great that like I don't know what's going to happen from episode to episode. And it's not like I love the show, because I don't love it. As a matter of fact, it feels like it feels like a lesser than The Boys to me, but it is good. And I was surprised at my reaction to it towards the end of the last episode, because I really thought that it was going to be one of those things where, like, look, I know what they're going for. This is perfect if you're a 14, 15-year-old boy. This is basically the greatest show ever, because then you can talk to your friends about all of the crazy things that are happening in the show. Mm-hmm. But I am not a 15-year-old boy. But by the end of the show, what is happening in it, you know, as it speaks to society today, and like they clearly take a stand on a bunch of things, which I find interesting. I don't agree with all of it, but I think it's.
But to me, that's the best part about this entire show.
I agree,
because you have an idea. So Hollywood has its ideas and thoughts and everything, and we all tends to know them because they'll be the first people to let you know about them. But this show, while it there's a lot of kind of regular progressive Hollywood sort of things, there's other stuff in there that counteracts all of that. It's making fun of those things while also embracing those things at the same time. It's because this is a show that somebody that really hates the progressive stuff and all this other things and whatnot. There are moments in there where this person will go, 100% correct. I agree with all this stuff. And then there's other things where they're going to be like, no, and vice versa. And the other thing as well. Yeah. And that's what's so great about it. And then when you start, at least when I break it down and I'm going like, okay, where's this show coming from? What kind of analogies are we trying to make and similes within life and everything? And, what is this kind of like? And it is and is not like everything, which is great. Because it's kind of, when you think about it, what comic books and stuff used to be about. We used to comment on, things of the day. X-Men wasn't about that stuff. Yeah. X-Men was about something different, but we didn't club you over the head with it. Now we're clubbing you over the head with it here, but we're also doing it in a way to say that, listen, there's valid stuff and there's crazy stuff, and and it all goes together. The world in this show itself is kind of basically look, man, the world's kind of screwed right now, and we're just kind of rolling with it as best we can. And again, it feels very like X-Men in a lot of ways, not only just because we've got this special school for the special kids and all that kind of stuff, but it never feels like they're aping any of the stuff that they're clearly, distinctly pulling from and everything.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Another thing that I noticed about the show is that they don't pull any punches anywhere with any of the views. And so because of that, it just all sounds like noise. And I think that that's done on purpose. Mm-hmm. And the other part to this is that instead of doing it the X-Men were first created for racial, it was a racial thing, and then it turned into a homosexual thing later. But with this show, that's all there already. And so what they're basically doing is they're making it this is celebrity. Yeah, that's really what they're focused on here.
It's mutants, but with a celebrity tinge to it, because it was the 21st century. We are connected to the internet. We're online and stuff more than we ever are. And of course, with as the world news goes by and stuff, you're able to access that more on digital stuff. So, and that's another great thing is how for example, Vought prides itself on being this great, straightforward, progressive company, but at the same time, they're disgusting in what they do. They're doing it just for money. They're doing it to exploit other people. It's that's what I love about it. It's it sits there and just shows you so many of these other facets, and you love and hate everybody simultaneously, but it's watching the garbage unfold, and that to me was kind of fun.
What if Vought was run like an oil company? Is basically what this is. Mm-hmm. I mean, and it's pretty great. I do love that aspect to the show. The other thing that they do quite deftly is their casting. I don't know anybody going into this show except for the people who show up from The Boys, like the lady who runs the public relations for Vought with the superheroes, that the red haired lady who's just amazing. I can't remember her name.
It reminds me of
She's
my ex-wife.
incredible. She does look a little bit like her. So like there's, there's that aspect to this, but the casting is so well done that it doesn't matter that you don't know who these people are. And it actually ups the stakes because they're not famous people. You know that you're not going to see all these people towards the end of the show. People are going to be dying on this show.
Yeah.
And you don't know who's going to live and die because you don't know who these actors are. And that is an absolute credit to the show.
Let's talk about Jess Sinclair and like her character, Marie. First of all, what an amazing, just to open the kind of show with this and everything. And like, what a great X-Men, mutant origin story there. First.
Quite literally, because it's taken from basically X-Men 3.
So boom. And then you kill your parents. And then, you've got to be set off into, the night, as it were.
I mean, it really does feel like, it feels like this is like directly taken from X3, and it's just a bloodier version and more horrifying version of it, but it is the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And I understand that you have to have some tropes because you need to get to the thing you're trying to get to. But man, that was another part of this where I was like, Jesus, this feels like the same thing we've been watching for 15 years now. Like that's how I started on this. Mm-hmm. But we eventually get to a point where I don't feel that way anymore. But it's part of what made this first episode so hard for me. I understand if you're watching the show and you really like that opening scene because it's saying a lot. It really is saying quite a bit. But because it is so beat for beat taken from X3, I'm like, man, I cannot be here with you.
But yeah, everyone's really now the breakout for me in this, the kind of the revelation that I was just like, all right, I'm on board with this actor now is Lizzie Broadway. First of all, what an amazing name.
Yeah.
When your name's Lizzie Broadway, first of all, awesome. But this girl is fantastic. She plays the girl who shrinks and everything. And
Little Cricket.
Yeah, she reminds me of like Florence Pugh and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She's got kind of a combo vibe of those girls.
There's also like there's something goofy in her. Mm-hmm. That it makes her instantly watchable for
so
me.
Sweet and endearing. It's just like you like when the Sam character there, like you understand why this kid would fall for her. Number one, he's been in prison for his entire life, and a cute girl likes you. You're like, oh my god,
yeah.
But also at the same time, too, like him, you would be awful distrusting of that as well. I can't blame him.
Well,
there.
he also, also he's he's a good looking boy, so. Yeah, good looking girl shows up, and also weirdly for somebody who has who has very little interaction with human beings, got quite a bit of game.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I can do enough here. He's learned. They must have let him watch some television or something. I don't know. Get him a little something. But that actor, Asa Gurman, he hasn't really been in much of anything, but he's like a little Evan Peters, isn't he?
Yeah.
Gosh, he's good.
He is.
I was just like, man, this guy's had to have been in a ton of stuff, and like he has not. And I was just like, dude, this is I'm on board for this kid.
There's also something really, really great about this show that they pull off that I didn't expect to have happen because I haven't watched more than one episode of what's the HBO show with the family with the media company that just ended last year. It's got Brian Cox.
Succession.
I have not watched. I've only watched one episode of that show ever because there wasn't a single character on that show where I was like, "Oh, that's the good person on this show."
Yeah, it's everyone's a scumbag.
Yeah, at least there's one redeeming character in the show that I can kind of hang my hat on. They don't even have to be a main character; just one person where I'm like, "That's our good person." And so I couldn't watch the show because it was the same thing. If you remember not, it was the same thing with Happy or Happiness, whatever it was, where everything was so bleak and awful.
Oh yeah.
And I couldn't watch it after that. And so I thought that that's what the show was going to be. But as it turns out, like people are kind of pricky at the beginning. Like first everyone seems really nice, and then everyone turns into a D-bag for a little bit. But then after you get past that part, there are quite a few characters who have redeeming qualities on the show. But I thought that it was all going to be like the Seven with the boys, where like there's not a single person on the Seven that you're like, oh, at least I like that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone on Seven's a jerk, pretty much. I mean, Maeve may be the only one where you could kind of...
Starlight, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But like for this show, they weren't tipping their hand at all. That listen, there are going to be quite a few people here actually who are redeemable and have very good qualities. You just got to find them first. And that's really good writing, really excellent writing.
And at the same time, too, we're dealing with characters that are in, you know, like we'll call them late teens, early 20s or something in that neighborhood here. And that's how these people are. That's how you are at that age. You're a little jerk until you start figuring some stuff out, and then, like, you know, sometimes you have to sift through those people. You sift through them to find their qualities that, you know, that make them a good person, I guess.
It's true. But I think that everybody on the show is so good. The kids specifically, I think they're such good actors. But I don't think there's any way that no less than 2 or 3 of these kids end up being very, very famous.
No, I believe
because they're too good of an actor. Like, I don't know which one it's going to be. I would think that Lizzie Broadway is going to be one of those people, but I don't know. And moving forward, when you need a younger actor for your thing, you would be an idiot not to cast one of these people in it.
Yeah, they're all really good. By the way, London Thor, what an amazing name. You get an award just for that name alone. My word. Last name Thor, good enough. I mean, you could just write on that one. If your name was Susie Thor, pretty good. London Thor, don't know why it's more amazing when there's a town in front of Thor, but boy, oh boy, that name does it.
Chance Perdomo. That's another
shabby.
Good name.
Yeah. Perdomo. Yeah, like, I don't know. It's very solid there at the end. It's like it's planting a flag.
Shelley Khan. See, they all have really good names.
You got to have a good showbiz name there, everybody. Get it,
Patrick Schwarzenegger. That's a good name. People will remember that.
Well, they'll remember that name for sure. It'll be like, but if you spend a little bit more time on that bench press, maybe we would know. Maybe I've picked about because this is Patrick Swayze's kid. What is this again?
I think what we need to do. They try to do this every couple years, and it never works because the person isn't a good actor in some way. You know, you're Frank Stallone, you know, like your people like that who's like family member of famous person, and they try to make a movie with those guys. You finally have a trifecta of people who are really good and are the children of famous people. Because you finally have, now with Patrick Schwarzenegger, you've got your final for your trifecta. But you also have now, you've got Wyatt Russell, who's also a really good actor. And your guy from The Boys, who's why
my brain, you just
Huey.
Yeah.
He's amazing also. And he's and like you have those 3 in a movie, get out of here.
Yeah, it's amazing what everybody's kind of doing these days, and like we're getting
Jack
so
Quaid.
much Jack. Good night. And that's the worst part too, is he's a better actor than both his parents put together, I think.
Agreed. Although the charm machine of his mom in the 80s. I mean, get out of here.
Listen, it's tough to deny. It's tough to deny, but even Dad these days is putting together. But I also contend that old Quaid has not been, he wasn't putting in great performances in those early years either. Watch what you call it there, Inner Space again. He's kind of crap.
He is, but I mean that's kind of the point of him to me.
Yeah,
like because especially in something like Enemy Mine, and this is not my observation. This is Red Letter Media's observation. Is that he really is like your Sam's Club brand Harrison Ford in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Because he looks just like him.
Yeah, he's got the face, he's got all the leading man stuff. It never really connects with the acting portion, and Jack just actually can act. He's like, thankfully, like he's not as good looking as Dad, and so he hasn't had to like coast on those good looks as much. So he's like, you know what, maybe I'll just become a really good actor.
He also doesn't have a debilitating coke habit like his dad.
Give him time. He just needs
his dad is infamous in Hollywood for being one of the biggest cokeheads in all of Hollywood.
Doesn't seem like he'd be an angry man at all. What are you talking about?
Oh my God.
He seems like he just level-headed. Cool,
I am so sure there are sound guys who exchange tapes of him just screaming at people all day on set. I am so certain that happens.
There was this trailer. I don't know if you saw this. This movie came out a couple years ago, but there was this trailer where like he's a man who's selling his house. He sells it to a black couple, and then he won't leave the house essentially.
Wow.
He's watching over it and everything, and I'm like, you watch it, you're just going like, is this just how he is? Because it feels just like how he is. I don't know the man. I would certainly hope that he wouldn't be racist, but I'm watching this just going like, he feels like he's too good at this.
Well, I think I told you that, I had listened to the audiobook of The Right Stuff because I'd seen the movie a million years ago. And I was like, you know what? I bet this is pretty good. And it's the narrator is Dennis Quaid. But I think I might have even said this to you. One of the greatest joys of my life is that you're listening to the audiobook, and because he does have a pretty great voice. Dennis Quaid's voice is pretty
good
great.
Voice.
However, Dennis Quaid is so clearly and obviously drunk for a lot of his reading. And it'll just, I think that it might make your ears crazy because I know how good you are with sound edits. Yeah. Like you can tell where sound edits are. It was so bad at some points that I could totally tell, oh, this is 2 days later. like they would cut and then go to another sentence and he sounds completely different because right now he's not drunk as he's reading.
9 a.m. sober. And he's like, all right, here we go. We're doing well today.
Exactly. And it's one of the greatest joys is like trying to decipher whether you're going to be getting sober or drunk Dennis in the sound booth to read The Right Stuff.
That's how the to a weird degree the Keith Richards audiobook was. It started out with Johnny Depp narrated, and then all of a sudden about 3 chapters in, another dude takes over. He's good.
I wonder why that is.
And the other guy's really good. And then like Johnny Depp does like the last chapter. It's just like, did you just do like 3 chapters and then split and just leave it to this other dude who is better? And like when Johnny comes back towards the end, then you're a little bit angry because it's like, oh man, the other guy was doing so well.
Have you ever heard Stanhope talk about Depp like in real life?
Mm-mm.
So he hung out with Depp for a while.
I'd heard
Stanhope
that.
And he is so out of like what normal people's lives look like.
Yeah.
That when they were in LA, Stanhope needed to get something, and so he went to Target. And he says to Johnny, he's like, You want to go to Target with me? And Johnny Depp's like, yeah, sure, I guess.
I think I'd like to go to Target, please. Yes.
And Depp is completely blown away with everything that you can buy in a Target. Like he's like an immigrant or a baby, to steal a joke from Saturday Night Live. Like he's like, wow, like everything's magical, and he's seeing it for the first time. And Stanhope's like, clearly this man hasn't done anything for himself in so long that just a big department store like Target is probably like magic to this man. It's so good.
Douglas, get over here. Look, they put Kermit the Frog on a t-shirt. I can't believe this. This is the greatest day of my life. I figured that's what Johnny Depp at Target's got to be like.
I can get dog food here and a shirt that says something about something that's weirdly from the 90s. This is a Rugrats t-shirt.
I'm not a granddad, but I could use this mug. What do you think about the powers? Because that's one thing that we see in like a lot of like, you know, X-Men stuff. We've been clamoring for like powers and stuff. We get some decently interesting powers here, but some of them seem like in some characters seem less defined than others.
Well, you know, especially with the sex change person, like I cannot tell what their powers are, specifically because you're going up against the strongest person in the school and you're holding your own against him. And how are you doing that? Do you have the powers of the Invisible Girl from Fantastic Four, like Sue Storm's powers? What is that? What is going on there?
Yeah,
I don't understand the power set at all.
Well, it's like Andre's got like a little bit of telekinesis, but he does more than just that. He's obviously very strong and stuff, but like at the same time too, the Marie character, she only, well, at least, and again, good arc here, good arc where she's just like, all I've got is this crummy blood power. You know, I can just kind of squirt. Which is again cool, interesting idea that again you can't get away with in anywhere, you know, like your Disney Pluses or anything like that, where the character has to cut themselves in order to get the said blood out, and then just kind of like spews it everywhere. But then eventually, she learns how, you know, more about this, you know, for lack of a better word, mutant power and stuff, and how to control that, and to see that within, like, be able to kind of sense the blood flow within other people. Really neat stuff. Now, if we were getting more characters like that,
can I out nerd you for a second here?
Please.
This is a very rare occasion, but what Marie's powers remind me of is the powers of the Asian girl from Runaways.
Okay, yeah,
and also blood bending in I think it's Legend of Korra, but it could be Avatar: The Last Airbender. Is that you have people who can bend the elements, but then there's like this like secret clan of horrible people who are called bloodbenders who can, you know, bend blood, and they're the worst of the worst, and you don't want to be around them because they're awful. And it's a pretty amazing arc. Like, if you've never seen those things, there's so many of them that you're going to go, oh, there's no way I'm going to watch 100 episodes of something I've never seen before. It gets
tough, yeah.
So I get it, but it's a really cool story. Anyway, so when this character shows up, I know exactly what's going to happen because we've seen it already in both Runaways with blood coming out of your hands, because that's how they do it, and the other one is the blood bending. So I even know what her final form powers look like because I've seen it already, and that wouldn't have bothered me so much, except everyone is so busy telling her how unique her power set is. It's like, it's not that unique. I've seen it twice already.
And another character that we then come across also has that as well, and we learn that, like, oh yeah, I'm just like you, and that's the reason why. I'm sorry, but she's an AOC stand-in as far as I'm concerned.
That's really funny. That is really funny.
You didn't see that from the first season? My thought was from the beginning. I'm like, well, this is clearly a stand-in for AOC. That's what it felt like to me.
That is incredible. I did not put those two things together.
I can't see how anybody couldn't.
Oh my God.
It seems it seems so very obvious to me. But like, and that's why we found out how, like, you know, during that was it UN or something like that, whatever big meeting or whatever, where somehow we found out, obviously it's her, but blew up all these people's heads and stuff, scanner style. But to find out that she now has, you know, the same thing as Marie here, cool. I like that.
Me too. I thought that you know, when it came to all of the boys callbacks, there wasn't nearly as many as I thought, and I was really concerned that they were going to lean on the boys stuff way more than they actually did.
We don't go over to like televisions where all this stuff is going on and you see all these characters. They're ancillary as if, and this is the best part, is that it feels like it is within the world of the boys, but it is not beholden 100% to the boys show. The only time I felt like oh boy, like oh boy, here we are, is when Homelander shows up. When Homelander shows up, it's the only time I was like, there you go. But what else are they going to do? Like, you kind of have to. I guess.
You're gonna need something extraordinary to end this happen.
But at the same time, too, like, but what Homelander then coming also kind of, symbolizes for what's going on and everything. Like, he's the only guy that really could do that, to be there in that, because he's also still kind of a catalyst for where, the whole story is going, be it this show or The Boys itself.
It's true, but you can't stop the way you feel about something, Adam.
It's always
so
there.
Both things were true. I was like, well, what else are you going to do? You got to bring in Homelander, but it kind of sucked that they brought in Homelander. Like, both things.
Yeah.
And I like not Martin Starr, whatever his name is. I like him just as much as everybody else. That guy's great. But like,
I think it's Anthony.
I would have liked to have seen just them in the show, but what are you going to do?
Now, I am fine with that, but like, as long as we keep that stuff to bare minimal things, such as what we saw within this season, I'm fine with it. But it doesn't need to be like Kramer walks in and everybody claps. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That is true.
I don't need that to happen throughout, to just be like, hey, look, everybody, it's A-Train showed up for this episode. Woo, I'm ready, A-Train.
It's also not the worst, because to me, the worst member berries of anything we've ever seen in mass media is when Walrus Man and his buddy show up in Rogue One.
Oh,
that is literally the worst member berries I've seen in a movie.
Stop it! Just for the love of God, stop it.
They're the worst.
Ugh. Let me see. Let's talk about a couple of Well, I'll go to the decisions that they make next, but first, let's talk about like how this show looks.
Yeah,
this show looks fantastic. Everything about it is so good. I love the production design on everything.
I don't know how they're cutting corners.
I don't either.
But they have to be, but I don't see it. I don't see where they're doing it.
It looks so expensive.
It is. It is. They constantly go to a new place.
Yeah.
Every scene, like we're in her dorm room maybe 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Like where are you cutting these corners?
And it is
don't see it.
It's so fleshed out. It looks like it's supposed to look. It doesn't look like a room or set. It looks like a room.
Yeah.
Like all of that. It just stinks of good.
It's the difference between when you're reading a comic book from the 80s where there's backgrounds everywhere and you're seeing all of these things,
mm-hmm.
to once image really starts kicking in where there's no backgrounds at all, and it's just the characters, like it's just 2 characters fighting each other, and this show, it feels like it cost $250 million to make 8 episodes of this show.
Yeah.
I know that's not the case, but man, it feels that way. And every time somebody uses powers, I'm not like, wow, they really skimped out there. Like, it never feels like that.
No, all of it looks good. You never really going, oh, that was, except for, because we even had like a shot or 2 in Ahsoka that we were like, whoa,
yeah,
not so hot. This doesn't have any of those moments.
Well, because Disney keeps leaning on the volume.
Yeah.
And so now you and I, when we're watching something, we're like, there's the volume. Like, we know it instantly when we see it. But when it comes to a show like this, I don't know how they're cutting corners. I have no idea how they're doing it. My guess is that they probably found a college that just let them have their way with it, because they're outside so much on this show.
You know what I think, at least for like some of those exteriors and a couple interiors, I definitely feel like those were businesses that they've kind of redone, because the wild kind of modern architecture and everything like that is like buildings that I've worked in before.
But there's so much brick and mortar, like school campus stuff. There's so much of that on this show.
Yeah, like I said, it's almost 2 different. Like, there's obviously several big things that they're working with here on this one, because it's very, and again, variety. There's so much stuff going on that you're just like, what? how do you do this show with that budget? I just don't know.
I don't either. And on top of that, I can't tell if they're shooting in LA. They might be, but I don't think they are. I don't know where they are.
Couldn't tell you. That also a good sign though too. That if you can look at it and you're not like, where in the hell is this? I don't know. You know, just kind of roll with it, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, totally agree.
Which means it's Toronto.
Yeah, either Toronto or Vancouver,
something like that,
or somewhere overseas, somewhere weird.
Yeah, somewhere quite bizarre. But I like this. So let's talk about a couple of the weird choices. The puppets. Let's talk about the puppets.
But that is just another add-on from The Boys, because don't forget the Midnight guy, whatever his name is, the guy with the guy who's basically Batman on The Boys.
Oh yeah, Black Noir. He sees everything as puppets and cartoons. His little background thing and stuff. I like that. It's so weird.
Me too.
It's so bizarre. But like again, one of the we're gonna take what would have been, and again, it's The Boys, so we're also used to doing this at this point. Just the most gruesome, bloody scene that, like, let's be frank, we've done a lot before and would be awesome to see. Yep. We're going to do it all in puppets.
Which I think, now that you're saying that, that is basically the only time I was like, hey, that's a really smart way to cut corners.
Yeah. Because it was just we don't have to do all this stuff. We could just do it with puppets. But it's so creative that, it still took a crap load of time to put all that together, choreograph. Like, because with when they kind of slice them in half, more or less, and blood is spurting out, and how we have the kind of fake blood of whatever the hell that stuff is. But so cool.
It's really the highlight to me. It's the highlight of the show. It's the most creative the show gets. It's the smartest the show gets. And it's the most interesting.
Yeah, we get you get a girl who shrinks and gets big and stuff, like all that stuff. It's corny, but like it's still fun, and like it has that kind of just on the cusp of being corny and stupid, but like it works.
Yeah,
like it's
all of those things.
Yeah,
all of those things. But as you know, I like something that's like maybe 15% goofy. Like I just prefer that. Like even music I prefer that's like 15% goofy.
And so that's why he's a big Weird Al fan.
I am a big Weird Al fan.
More than 15% goofy with Weird Al, let's be frank with ourselves.
Well, sure.
Yeah. He goes a little into the wild and wacky, that guy. Just a touch. All right, before we get to our final review, we have to find out how this Boys spinoff relates back 1-to-1 with one Mr. Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement, and if you think we rambled on during the meat of this show, well, get ready. Double finger guns pointed in your direction and a small nod your way, Mr. Stallone. I'd like to talk to you about Jason Netter, one of the producers of Gen V, because he was also a visual effects producer on your movie called Driven. We've spoken about the movie Driven before on this podcast, but something we haven't discussed is your friendship with that movie's director, Renny Harlin. While shooting this movie, you invited Harlin to join your family for Thanksgiving, something that Harlin, being Finnish, was probably curious about. Because I know when I was in Mexico and someone asked me if I wanted to go to the Virgin Mary parade, my answer was yes, immediately. Yes, I didn't even have to think about it. And it was awesome. And the best parade I've ever been to, which isn't saying much because all parades suck. Parades and circuses are two things I put into the category of things that were a big deal 100 years ago that kids hate now. But for some reason, some people think kids still like. It's kind of like taffy and coal mine work. Now, when I was 6, a clown at a circus. This is a true story. When I was 6, a clown at a circus pulled a Tootsie Roll out of my ear, and I began to unconsolably weep. My parents had to literally take me and my sister out to the parking lot. Why was there a Tootsie Roll in my ear? Did someone put it in there in the middle of the night while I was sleeping? Why couldn't I feel it? Mysteries abound. But that Virgin Mary parade, that was cool. So it's kind of a bummer that while there was clearly a friendship with you and Renny Harlin, during editing, you got really angry that the movie seemed to focus on. Let me check my notes here. Someone named Kip Pardue's character named Jimmy Bly. Wow. Let's see what else Kip Pardue has done. Oh, a show one no one has watched but us, and I brought up incessantly during this podcast, The Runaways. I see you're in pre-production for Cliffhanger 2, and Rennie Harlan isn't coming back to direct. So you're clearly still angry at something that happened 22 years ago. So good for you hanging on to something for that long. Because I still hate that clown from the circus with a passion that would surprise my therapist if I still went to one. And there you have it. This week's Stallone Connection is producer Jason Netter. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Shanzi, the Hartford Hellion.
I ever tell you I probably have, but the Ronald McDonald story?
Please continue.
So my cousins were in town once, and so me and my brother, I'm probably like 17 maybe. And, cousins in town, you're small town, South Carolina and everything. You got nothing else to do. It's like, all right, we'll go down to McDonald's or something. So it's like a Saturday, we go to the McDonald's and long line at the drive-thru and everything. And down in the corner, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we see a guy dressed up as Ronald McDonald.
Just on the corner, like he's not working for McDonald's?
Well, no, he was clearly at some truck that was because this is also a place where a lot of truckers park their rigs and stuff. He was kind of over in that area, and he was walking up to the McDonald's and everything, and he had like a little ukulele in his hand.
I see. And
he's waving at everybody in the drive-through line, and he's jamming on the little ukulele there and everything. Now, he's a good bit away at this point, but he's walking by, he's looking at everybody, he's waving to the cars and stuff, looks right at us, and of course with all the 17-year-old punk in you, you just look him dead in the eye and just flip Ronald off.
Flip him off. Mm-hmm.
And then he just it was beautiful timing on his part, because he just kind of paused for half a second, and then just right back into that bull crap that he was doing, just strumming the thing. It's one of those you just got to hold in the laugh, because you're just like, bravo, sir, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's good on him. That's good on him.
And just keeps on going on.
He did all the heavy lifting in that story.
But all of a sudden, he left out and then brought a whole bunch of kids over to the Caravan or wherever they were going there, and I was just like, saw Ronald McDonald at a McDonald's. What in the world? Crazy times.
That's pretty cool. Now, I know I've brought this up before with you. I don't know if I've ever said it on the show, but this is another story involving Ronald McDonald, and it is amazing. So I am in a sketch comedy group in the early 90s, and me and my best friend and writing partner are in this group. And there is a woman in the group who is very, very large, incredibly large, like a lot, like one of the biggest ladies I've ever met in real life that's still, walking around. And she starts talking about this and that and this and that. And she's very strange. Like, it's not strange that she's a big lady. She's strange and a big lady. These two things are separated. And so she starts talking about she starts asking questions about me and my best friend, and she knows that we're from Connecticut, and she wants to know where in Connecticut, and we tell her the name of our hometown that we're from, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I know where that is." I go, "Oh, it's a suburb of Hartford," and she goes, "No, I know exactly where that is. I lived there." And I was like, "What?"
It's odd.
And she goes, "Yeah, I lived there. My brother works for McDonald's, and so when he needed help, he was like, 'Hey, I could really use your help here.' So I moved there. I moved to Manchester and worked with him. And I am completely stupid." I'm completely stupefied by this.
Right.
I live in a town with 50,000 people. Like, I came from a town with 50,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a big town.
Yeah.
It's very small. And it is also 1,000 miles away from where this story is taking place. So it's just
if somebody just knew that, because same kind of deal. Like, my town was a small little town, and if somebody said that, like, "Hey, I'm from that town too," I'd be like, bull crap, you are.
Right. Imagine you're in Kansas and someone says that
yeah, I'd be like, no.
Town. Right. It was that strange to me. and I look over at my writing partner, and he is red in the face. He's absolutely red in the face, and I can tell it's because he's trying not to laugh. And I can't figure out why he's struggling to not laugh. And I'm like, what? And he just shakes his head, like, do not ask me, don't look at me. Like, it's that kind of
get
thing.
It away,
like,
get it away.
Do not do anything. Finally, we break away from this woman. And he says to me, he goes, she worked with her brother. I was like, right. And he goes, her brother is a clown. And he works for McDonald's. What do you think her brother did for a living? And I said, oh my God, her brother's Ronald McDonald. He goes, right. And if her brother is Ronald McDonald and she is working with her brother, who do you think she was? And I lost my mind. I was laughing so hard. And he goes, Grimace! She was Grimace! And oh my God,
man.
Oh my God, I don't remember ever laughing that hard in my entire life.
Happy birthday,
oh my God,
Grimace.
That's a long story. That's a very long story to get to the fact that this lady was Grimace in our hometown. Played Grimace in our little hometown of Manchester, Connecticut.
I saw a woman that was dressed in purple the other day, and I was texting my boss. I go, I'm behind Grimace at the bank. She was a big lady, and she was round just like Grimace, and it was just like, I couldn't help it. It was just funny.
I'm behind Nine Ball.
All right. Here at HMP, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Sean, where does Gen V Season 1 fall on the Robin rating system for you?
You know, this for me is a Damian Wayne, but it's a pretty high Damian Wayne. I expected to hate this, and I don't at all. And I watched all 8 episodes, which I wasn't sure I was going to do, and I did. It is one of those things where if you if you read Garth Ennis's stuff now, and you're like, man, this is totally my jam. I love everything this guy's saying. Then you're really gonna like The Boy, or you're really gonna like Gen V. Mm-hmm. So you should totally watch the show if that's your thing. And if you're someone who's a little older but still killing it like me, then go in with some trepidation.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's a little wild. It's a little out there. It's definitely not going to be for everybody, but if you can get along with kind of seeing a hard R-rated X-Men kind of thing that just feels like you said, we're doing a lot of the same things that we've done before, but for whatever reason, we're packaging them. Well, this is what we ask for actually quite a lot in media. You're repackaging what we've kind of know before, and you're just doing a better riff on it. And that's what we like. It's familiar, it's new, but it's distinct and unique, and that's what I like about this show. I like that its politics are all over the place and keeps you guessing as to what the hell the show is actually trying to say. I think that's a powerful thing because I don't think enough people even think about their own stances enough and explore those options. So doing that within the media and having the media kind of go which side would I kind of fall on these things is a good thing for people, I think. And something that, frankly, the show doesn't need to do at all. And as a matter of fact, could have, if math-wise, hurt the show more than it would actually help it, if you kind of think about it. But it tends to work here. And it's one thing, again, I also went into this with zero expectations and found myself just going, gosh, I really like all of these characters. And I thought this was going to be, now this is not a good, representation for me because I love the show, but I thought this was going to be like the Muppet Babies for some people, We get on this other show and it's a whole bunch of young kids doing bull crap that we couldn't care much less about. But this is not that show. It's boys adjacent, but in a very good way.
Agree. I agree with what you say there. I think everything you've said is right.
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake. Wow.
Yeah, Tim Drake. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a whole bunch of fun. And again, I think going in with nothing, but except for I know the tone based upon The Boys, and it delivered on that. But also at the same time too, was in the world of The Boys, but never felt like it was trying to be The Boys as well, which is another nice thing because it doesn't feel like, oh, we're putting together a team and we're going against this specific. We ain't there yet. This is the origin story and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And I like the idea that what we've learned over the course of the 2 seasons of The Boys and stuff with Compound V, and that these are the first kids that their parents for what we kind of find out is more or less money things of like, hey, you can have your rich kids just inject them with this stuff, and parents experimenting on children. Again, that comes into a whole nother play of things, and again. It's like Star Trek, early Star Trek, where it's like we're gonna talk about issues, but we're not gonna do it in the most obvious of ways. And I applaud a show for doing that and having the guts to go out and talk about that stuff, but not feel like we're doing an after school special or something like that, which I think is great.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm looking forward to see, and they leave it off well enough for you could stop it here if they didn't do anything else, it'd be fine, I think. But at the same time, too, I feel like
it's already been renewed.
Oh, has it? So because it felt like we're leading into a good spot for season 2, and I'd be happy to watch that, especially after I'm going to assume a pretty decent Boys season 3. That's just a guess. Mm-hmm. Based upon the 2 seasons that we've previously seen and enjoyed, so I would imagine.
Well, there's 3 seasons of The Boys. We're on season 4.
Or is it that many? I think COVID screwed up how everybody perceives time.
You are not wrong about
it's like,
that.
I don't know, like because the show's been out for 5 years, but it's on to 4 now. So this is a wacky world we live in. Speaking of wacky, we'll talk about what we're doing next week in just a second. Plug something. I don't care.
We have another podcast called 30 Questions, and we talk about whether it's a Star Wars or a Marvel show on the Disney Plus. We have probably reviewed it on 30 Questions, where we ask 30 questions of each episode of a show. So if you don't know about that, check that out.
A lot of cool deep divey stuff right there, and get to see all that stuff unfold in real time, which I think is kind of fun. But at the same time too, I also like going through this and just like discussing a full season, outright and everything, because I don't know that I would have wanted to do this particular show week to week.
Oh, it would have been murder. I'm very glad we didn't do that.
Probably good. So you never know. You never know on how these things end up going here. That is it, everybody. Join us next week. We're staying on the Prime. We're on that Prime, baby, on the Prime. And we're going to be watching Merry Little Batman, the new animated Batman flick. I'm not sure exactly all of what it consists of. I just know it's Batman and it's Christmas related. So by gum, we're going to be doing it on this here podcast. So check all that out, everybody out. Merry Little Batman on Prime. That will do for us for next week. And of course, that is it. We'll see you next time for Sweet Shanta Kovacs from the internet, the apps, and Bruce Leslie. I'm Adam Porteous. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty.